Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
He's in the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
He doesn't.
You know, no matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
And welcome back to The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by my man, Rod Funderburk in the house. Rod, how was your weekend, man?
Hey, what's up, Des? The weekend was great, man. It was beautiful, 85-degree weather. Got to go outside in the midst of this coronavirus epidemic or pandemic and try and get a little relief from having so much cabin fever. How was yours?
It was good. I actually, for once, anybody that knows me knows I pretty much work 6-7 days a week doing random nonsense. And I actually took Saturday and Sunday off. So I didn't really do anything, graded some papers, and that took most of the weekend, and just chilled and waited for Sunday at 9:00 when the newest episodes of The Last Dance came on, episodes 5 and 6. And we're going to chop that up here in just a bit. Need to do a little bit of laundry first. The Rundown sponsored by Blue Naples Pizza in Kernersville. They are open for carryout. Go check them out at 1519 Union Cross Road. That's 336-993-7707. That is my go-to spot in Kernersville for strombolis, for cheese stick subs, wings. They'll definitely hook you up. Pasta dishes. They're right there behind Burger King on Union Cross Road, right there by Interstate 40. So definitely go and check them out. Rod, I wanted to get your opinion on what we've seen so far. We've made it through 6 episodes of The Last Dance, the documentary spotlighting the 1997-98 Chicago Bulls, the last Bulls team that Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson were around. Initial thoughts. First, I wanted to start off in episode 5. From Sunday night, where I think it really detailed the relationship between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bean Bryant. And I don't know if a lot of people knew that they were as close as apparently they were. I wish the documentary had gone a little bit more in depth with it. I thought we would see a little bit more of Kobe. They kind of were prepping us for it all week that, this is the episode's going to have Kobe in it. And he was really only in it for about 5 or 8 minutes total. But talk to me about what you saw in terms of the relationship between Kobe and Jordan, and if it changed your perception at all about Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, because I think some people may have had perceptions about both of them being so kind of closely guarded, to the vest in terms of who they are privately, that we never really knew that they were that kind of close until Kobe passed away in January. So what did you think about the dynamic they showed between Michael and Kobe, Michael being the bigger brother, Kobe being the little brother?
To be honest with you, I never really knew they had that relationship going, but it was great to see the way it came out. And it came out at the very beginning of episode 5, how, Kobe was talking about, he was looking at him as a big brother. He said he would call Michael Jordan to get advice on how to move on the court. He'd ask Michael Jordan what kind of moves he'd do. And then even on top of that, Kobe said Michael Jordan was like, hey, man, if you need any help at all, give me a shout. But I think what really brought some things into perspective for me was Kobe Bryant was an assassin because Michael Jordan was an assassin. If Kobe Bryant idolizes his game after anybody else, I can't necessarily say they're an assassin like that. But even the fadeaway jumper that Kobe used to do, it looks just like Mike's shot.
Oh, yeah.
That little moment right there that Kobe was talking, it made me realize, okay, everything Kobe did, he not only did he emulate Michael Jordan, but he actually called Michael Jordan, was like, this is the way you're supposed to do it. How you do this? What do you think about this? And then, of course, Michael being the way he was, even earlier in the episodes, he had a brother who he'd fight on the basketball court when they were younger because he wanted to be so competitive and wanted to win all the time, until Michael Jordan had the opportunity now to be a big brother to the next star who's coming up in the NBA. And I think Michael Jordan took a lot of pride in showing Kobe what to do, how to move, how to read plays, how to take that extra step and those extra details and then become the Mamba, that assassin on the basketball court. And I think Jordan took pride in teaching him that. And to Jordan, it was like, hey, when I'm gone, that's really me still out there on the court, because everything Kobe's giving you now came from me, MJ.
You know, it's the best part of what Kobe said in the small time we had him on episode 5, to me, was him basically saying, you know, he hates the whole conversation of who would win one-on-one between him and Jordan, or him versus somebody else or whoever. And he said it point blank. He was like, it wouldn't be a me without Michael Jordan. Like everything I know, everything I've learned in this game in the pro style, I learned from him. He was like, you know, all the, like you touched on, the little turnaround fadeaway jumper, how to do this, certain footwork and things like that. Like Kobe is the closest to Michael Jordan that we've seen since Jordan left. And literally, like, he's almost a carbon copy of Jordan. But I thought it was cool that Kobe acknowledged that, you know, and he said, he was like, I wouldn't have 5 championship rings if it wasn't for me pestering Michael Jordan questions here. How do you do this? How do you do that? And him actually accepting him in that role. And it made me remember the Kobe Bryant memorial service, the Michael Jordan speech about Kobe. That was really the first time that we even really knew. We kind of knew they knew each other, but we didn't know that they were like that, like close friends, you know, talking at 3 a.m, going over business things, family and stuff. Like it felt like they had a really good bond. And I think in a way, Kobe took that he had with MJ and had that with LeBron. You know, like I think that's kind of the progression that it was MJ and then Kobe and then LeBron. And Kobe took the stuff that he learned from MJ and would ask LeBron now, or tell LeBron. Now, I don't know if LeBron is as eager to learn as Kobe is, because I've never seen anyone like Kobe Bryant in terms of just being a sponge and just asking questions. How does this work? How does that work? Why did you do this? You know, I don't know if LeBron is built like that or wired that way, but Kobe and MJ seem like they were kind of wired similar. So I did want to talk about the Dream Team, which is what they went into also in episode 5 of The Last Dance, the documentary talking about the 98 Chicago Bulls team. And the fact that a lot of people, now that time has moved on, there's a lot of dirt thrown on that team in terms of it not being the greatest team ever. Rod, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Dream Team is the greatest team ever assembled, like in any professional sport?
I'm going to have to say yes, man. I mean, that Dream Team had everyone on it during that time frame. You had Larry Bird, you had Magic Johnson, you had Karl Malone, you had Stockton. I think Stockton was on that team.
Yeah, he was on the team.
Yeah, I mean, you had David Robinson, you had Patrick Ewing, you had, of course, Michael Jordan. I mean, what other team would you want? I mean, that was a dream team. They didn't lose not one game.
I think their average margin of victory was like 30 points or something like that.
Yeah,
like
I mean, it was just completely ridiculous. And then as you watched it last night, even being a dream team, Michael Jordan was the cream of the crop. You know, Magic Johnson, you know, said it. He was like, hey, you know, why I told that guy, Michael Jordan, if you don't turn into Air Jordan, we're going to blow y'all out of the gym. Like he said, why in the world did I tell him that? Because then Jordan rose to be a superstar among superstars. You know what I'm saying?
That was the thing I noticed last night was like, because we got to see some footage I hadn't seen before, because there is a Dream Team documentary on YouTube that was on NBA TV years ago that I go back and watch all the time, and had some footage from that, but it also had some footage I had never seen. And that was the one thing I did notice, was that it got to a point where Roy Williams said it like in episode 1 that he could, you know, turn on and off a switch. He just never friggin' turned it off. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you could see it, like that all of a sudden, like he was just better than everybody else on the court. And it's like, you're looking around and you mentioned it. I mean, it's 11 Hall of Famers like on this roster.
Charles Barkley. I don't think I mentioned Charles Barkley, but all those guys.
Yeah, man, it was just crazy. It makes me laugh whenever I hear people say, oh, this person's better than Michael Jordan, or that person's better than Michael Jordan. No slight to Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or whoever you want to throw in that category. This cat was just different, man. Like we haven't seen, Kobe's the closest we have seen to it. But even Kobe he wasn't exactly it. It was like kind of seeing Jordan in a blurry mirror, kind of whenever you would talk about Kobe. And LeBron's not even on that level. Like to me, he lacks that killer instinct that Michael and Kobe both had. For me, LeBron has that killer instinct. He just didn't have it on 24/7. Like for LeBron, we've seen it, but it's only when his back's against the wall. Like when his team's about to be eliminated from a playoff series, then you see Beast LeBron show up minute 1 of the game and goes out and have 54 points and 17 assists and all that stuff. Like, what was that? It was an elimination game against the Celtics years ago. I think he was with Miami, and Miami was down like 3-2 or something like that. Yeah. And LeBron came out with a look on his face like from the jump, and I was like, "Oh, it's on tonight! Like he's about to do this." And then he went out and like literally, like you could see the faces of Garnett and like Pierce and them. Like, I mean, luckily he doesn't play like this every day, you know, because he play like this every day. Yeah, I would put him in the conversation, but. Yeah, watching that last night, that made me really go, oh, man, I kind of forgot how dominant this dude was on the court. And the Dream Team, it also brings up a thing with this whole Isaiah Thomas thing. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, too, because as time has gone by, people have recognized how great of a player Isaiah Thomas was. Top 10 point guard of all time.
Oh, definitely.
2-time NBA champion. I think he might have won a finals MVP in there. But I think that for the greater good, Isaiah didn't need to be on that Dream Team because I think history would have changed if he was on it. And I'll let you go first. Like, how would it have changed history if Isaiah Thomas had actually been on the 92 Dream Team?
You know, I'm not sure that it would have changed history in the form of scoring or the Dream Team, you know, creating the records that they created and creating the atmosphere that they created. I'm thinking maybe some things could have gotten straightened out on that team. You know, sometimes you have a bunch of all-stars like that and everybody can play. Usually there's 1 or 2 people that have the voice of reason. And to me on that team, it probably could have been someone like David Robinson, could have been maybe even someone like John Stockton, could have been like, hey guys, what's going on with y'all? Jordan, what's going on with you and Isaiah? Or Isaiah, what's going on with you and Magic? And I'm thinking maybe it could have gotten straightened out. Because to be honest with you, Isaiah Thomas really should have been on that team because if you look back at the bad boy Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas was the offense. Everybody else played defense, rebounded, and had a special role. Isaiah Thomas was the offense. He scored. Do you remember the game? I think they showed it, the game that Isaiah Thomas had when he landed wrong and his ankle got sprained and it swole his ankle up.
Yeah, it was against the Lakers. Yeah, he scored like 25 points in the fourth quarter or something like that.
I mean, he went nuts. I mean, but that's who he was. You know, but don't get me wrong, because they were the bad boy Pistons, you know, they had the whole swag of we're going to beat you down. You come through the lane, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We're going to put hands on you. And we ain't talking about the way the preacher put hands on you. You know, we're going to take you down through there. So,
God, man, you know, they were rough.
Yeah, definitely. So they got that reputation. So, of course, when they beat the Celtics, Isaiah had words with Bird and, you know, Kevin McHale and those guys, you know. And when they beat Magic and the Lakers, prime time, those guys, I mean, Isaiah had words. You remember Magic went up and elbowed Isaiah, and there was an issue with that, and Isaiah got up and pushed him. And then, of course, you know, I don't have to tell you about the physicality that the Bulls and Isaiah took Jordan and the Bulls through. He just created so many enemies with the way that they played. Really, they didn't have to say anything because everybody already knew. Larry Bird's an enemy. Jordan's an enemy. Magic and y'all ain't getting along right now. And these are the guys who are making up this team who are the top 3 players in the league at that time.
Yeah.
You can't bring Isaiah on.
And see, that's kind of where I am because I'm like, when I thought of the question, I was like, okay, how would history be different if Isaiah was on that team? If they had put Isaiah Thomas on that dream team would not have been built, in my opinion, because Jordan wouldn't have played, Scottie Pippen wouldn't have played, Magic Johnson wouldn't have played, Larry Bird wouldn't have played. You would have had some sort of, it would have been Isaiah Thomas, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, Chris Mullin, that kind of thing. But it would have lacked that top, over the top star power that the first Dream Team had. Because even though nobody, and all of them now are kind of circling the wagons and saying, well, no one said specifically, I'm not playing if Isaiah's playing, or no one said Isaiah Thomas isn't playing. Although Mike did allude to it last night where he said he was told when the initial call came and he asked who else is playing, they basically just said that one guy's not going to be on the team. Like they didn't say his name, but everybody knew who they were talking about.
Right.
But you ran through it. I mean, the Celtics and the Pistons had their battles. Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas had literally just gone through the whole thing with Dennis Rodman, basically saying that, you know, if Larry Bird was black, he'd be treated different. Isaiah was like, if he was black, he'd be just another guy. Larry kind of shrugged it off, but Larry Bird also strikes me as the type that holds grudges, like lifetime grudges, and just doesn't really get in your face about it, but he remembers that kind of stuff. And then with Magic and Isaiah were close until right around those, I guess the 89 finals, or no, the 88 finals against the Lakers, that the Lakers beat the Pistons.
Right
they after
kissed
that,
or something on the cheek.
It was a big deal back then. Yeah, because they meet at half court kiss on the cheek or whatnot. And everybody was like, oh, what's going on? Because this is late 80s, early 90s when all that's going on. And then, of course, Magic contracts HIV. And really their falling apart was Isaiah coming out and saying he wondered out loud how Magic contracted the virus, which basically insinuated that maybe he was gay or something along those lines. And Magic never really forgave him for those comments. So Magic had issues with Isaiah. And then, you know, of course, Jordan and Pippen had issues with Isaiah and that whole lot. So I don't think those guys play if Isaiah is on that team. And I think the people that put together that Chuck Daly, and, you know, Chuck Daly was his coach. Mm-hmm. I think Rod Thornstein was the general manager of the Dream Team. He was the general manager of the Pistons. So, I mean, if they wanted to put him on the team, they could have. And his stats do stack up to, you know, the guys who are on that squad. But did the Dream Team need Isaiah Thomas? No, Lord, no.
No, they didn't need
Isaiah Thomas. Time to get Stockton out there. Yeah, I mean, they were fine.
But I tell you what, if Isaiah wanted to be on that team, you know what all Isaiah had to do? When they lost the championship, the Eastern Conference Finals to the Bulls in 91, instead of walking off the court the way he did, if he goes and he shakes everybody's hand and say, hey, we were rough. We know we were. It was what it was. It's basketball. Congratulations, guys.
He
did win the championship. He didn't do that.
He did the little church lady dip.
Yeah. Oh,
he did the church lady dip.
It looked real bad the way he ducked down.
That's what it was. If he had just straight walked out, no one would say nothing probably today. But it was the little dip. It was like
it was bad.
Oh, I'm kind of behind laying beer on this. Yeah. Like, and Jordan nailed it last night when they were like, and this might have been at the end of 4, when they were giving him the tablet and they were like, this is Isaiah talking about the walk-off or whatever. And Jordan was like, I don't want to hear it. It's going to be bullshit. Like, it's either going to be him, you know, making up something, or him now seeing how the public's reacted to it over the past 30 years. And he's going to change how it was. But he was like, there's nothing that he could say on this that's not going to make me think he's not an a-hole.
Yeah, well, Jordan was right about that.
And then he literally said what he just said out loud, that, yeah, you know, now seeing the public's perception of it after the fact. And that's exactly what it was. And, you know, they showed the Bulls shaking their hands the 2 years prior.
That's the key right there. It goes back to the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. When the Bulls lost, they shook their hands, man.
Now
after they got their butts beat physically.
Now, Isaiah did have a point that, you know, before it was Bulls Pistons, it was Celtics Pistons. And when the Pistons finally got over the Celtics, the Boston Celtics were walking off the court in the middle of the game. Like, I remember that. Like, it was Adrian Dantley was at the foul line, and it was like 7 or 8 seconds to go. And Bird and Parrish and all these dudes, like, they're in the game. Like, they're walking off the court. Like, they're leaving. Yeah. And like, Isaiah had to track down Kevin McHale at half court and grab him. And that's when McHale was like, you know, congrats to you guys. Represent the East Conference, beat the Lakers, and he gives him a high five or whatever. And he's like, you know, that's what's up. But he had to go get him. Like, he had to go grab him and stop him from walking off the court. So there was a bit of a precedent there, thinking back to the Eastern Conference back then, where you had to get over another team to get to the finals. So that, I mean, I understand that. And plus, people don't talk about this. Detroit got swept in those conference finals. And that last game was at home. That game was at Detroit, you know, so like they were getting beat down by the Bulls in the Palace. So like they were trying to get out. They were trying to leave.
No, I understand.
And, like, done with it.
But see, I don't agree with Isaiah Thomas on that, simply because you will only walk off the court if it's the Celtics who beat you, because that's how the Celtics did you. Bulls never did you like that.
Exactly. And they always gave you respect.
Bulls gave you your respect after you were way physical with them, more physical than you should have been with the Bulls. But of course, don't get me wrong, they were towing the line. You know, that stuff that was going on back then pretty much was just common fouls, and you might get one technical every once in a while out of it. If you did that today, guys would be suspended 10 games, man.
Yo, the one where, like, I mean, I think it was game 3 or game 4 of the 91 Eastern Conference Finals, where Pippen is driving and Rodman like shoves him. And like, I didn't realize it. You see it on the replay, but when he shoves him, I thought he got shoved into the chairs. No, Rodman shoves him straight down, like into the ground. Like the thud you hear is Scottie Pippen's chest and face hitting the baseline, and he's just laying there like he's probably concussed. And Rodman didn't even get a technical foul for it. He got a regular personal foul. And I'm like, yo, they were already out of bounds. They were already out of bounds when he pushed him.
In today's game, guys are suspended, man.
Yeah, that's 10 games right there. Like, what are you doing? Like, they starting fights and stuff. Like, you seeing anybody that can get Larry Bird so mad that he's trying to grab your throat, like on the court, or Jordan. I mean, I've seen Reggie Miller get underneath people's skin like that too. But those Pistons, man, like, I don't regret not having Isaiah Thomas on that team. And I don't think any of those guys do either, to be honest.
Of course.
I think Isaiah regrets not being on that team, but that's from his own actions.
Yeah, he brought that on himself. He really did. Yeah. But hey, that's just how it goes, man.
One more quick thing here with Rod Funderburk here, episode of the Rundown, dissecting The Last Dance, episode 5 and 6. One thing that they really touched on through the Olympics and into episode 6, and this is the one thing when it comes to the Jordan LeBron debate that I don't think people truly understand. And I know you were in the same, we were back in high school when most of this was going on. So for me, it's clear as day, like how it was and what was going on. I don't remember LeBron ever having like throngs of people waiting for him outside hotel rooms, buses, auditoriums. Like, I mean, it's like a Michael Jackson type of thing with Mike in the 90s. And I don't remember any basketball player getting to that level that Mike was at. And they showed it last night. You had to actually see it, like grown women weeping at the sight of him coming out of a tunnel, or, you know, walking out of a hotel lobby. And there's just like 400 people just standing there, just waiting to get a glimpse of him. Like, LeBron has never been on that level. He never will be on that level. And I don't know any other way to phrase like the popularity of Jordan in the 90s. Like, can you put into words like how big this dude was in the 90s in terms of just like, not just here, but globally? Like, the Olympics shot Jordan to a whole other level of popularity worldwide.
Oh my goodness. 1992, Dez, who was the president of the United States?
Bill Clinton.
Was it Bill Clinton? He just became
president in 92. Well, actually in 92 would have been George Bush.
George Bush
and Clinton would have started 93. Yeah.
Right.
So for the year 92 it would have been Bush, right?
Right. So that's my point right there. We got a little mix up on Bush and also Bill Clinton. Everybody in the world will tell you who Michael Jordan was back in 92. Everybody knew who he was, more so than the president of the United States from a global standpoint. And that's just who he was. And everybody wanted to be like Mike. We talked about it on another episode long ago. When you're such a player that you can star in a movie and be the only one in the movie, I mean, you a bad man. You know what I mean?
LeBron's doing Space Jam 2. Like, he can even come up with a different concept. He's just going to do a sequel to what Jordan already did. I mean,
exactly. And then if you take a look at who Jordan was a guy who didn't even want to talk to Nike shoes. Mm-hmm. He talks to Nike shoes. Everybody during that time, and this is all from last night, of course, was getting deals. The big players are getting deals of $100,000. Jordan got a deal of $250,000. Right. Nike said, hey, we'll be happy if we sell $3 million worth of shoes over the next 3 years. They do over $100 million in the first year. Yeah. That right there tells you who Jordan was globally.
You know, and I was telling my wife this last night too. I was in a commercial break after they showed that part with the shoes or whatever. And I was like, you know, another difference between like why Jordan is just bigger than LeBron, better, like why he's more revered. Jordan changed how we view wearing shoes. Like, just think about that for a minute. Yeah. Like, before Jordan, you wore basketball shoes to play basketball. You didn't wear basketball shoes to go to school in or to go to work or like casually. Like, they weren't like a piece of your wardrobe like that until Air Jordans came out. And then they spawned this industry of all these different basketball sneakers and stars having their own brand. Jordan is the genesis of that. He started that. Oh, yeah. I mean, we all have different types of sneakers and stuff right now, all because of that. It all goes back to that. Jordan hasn't played basketball in what, like 25 years or something like that. I think the last year he played was 2003 with the Wizards. So it's been like 17
years.
years. Yeah. So he ain't played in almost 20 years. And Jordan Brand still does like $3 billion a year in revenue, you know,
and
just because of
like,
him.
What kind of Jordans do you have? All the different brands of Jordan. Jordan can be a whole conversation. It could be a rundown topic at any time. Just Jordan shoes by
it really could. It really could. And like, and it drives me nuts when people are like, "Oh, well, LeBron's better," and I'm like, "How? Like, how? In what way? Like, in what way is he better? He's not more popular. He's not more well known." Like, you could literally say Michael Jordan in the 90s was just as well known as Santa Claus or Jesus Christ. I could say that comfortably and be like, I could ask anybody in my family, do you know who Michael Jordan is? And they would look at me crazy like, why did you even ask me that? You know,
just as well known as Michael Jackson, who's also was a global icon.
You know, I was thinking Charles Barkley made an excellent point after it was over. He was on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt, and I was trying to think through it because I told my wife Michael Jackson is the only person I can think of that draws this kind of reaction, like to have, you know, 35-year-old white women like literally just fainting, like passing out, crying, like not unable to control themselves because they're in his presence. Same with guys. Like, it wasn't just girl, like everyone. Like, if you saw Michael Jordan, it was an event. Like, oh, that's Michael Jordan. And I was trying to think, is there anybody that's been like that other than Michael Jordan since Michael Jordan? I couldn't think of anybody. And Charles Barkley brought up the one guy I could not remember was like this, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is probably the closest thing to this phenomena where just the last Masters he won last year, that Sunday, I still have the image in my head of him walking the 18th hole to go shoot that final shot. And he's just got this crowd of like people following him behind him. If you see the wide shot, it's him. And I forgot who he was playing with that day. They're walking down the fairway. And then you see behind them, there's like everyone else, people, like 2,000 people walking behind them on the fairway so they can be on that hole to watch. And Tiger might not be as popular as he was, say, maybe 10 years ago. But he's the closest I could think of sports-wise that got to close to the level of popularity that Michael Jordan achieved. But there is no basketball player playing today that's even remotely close to the same stratosphere. And I'm a LeBron James fan. Like, and I can't follow him where he goes.
And I can't even say that a player would be able to handle it, because I'll be honest with you, I felt so sorry for Michael Jordan.
Right,
what
me
he
too.
was going through. I mean, he was like, man, I got to just sit up in this empty hotel room by myself on the couch because I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. I can't be whoever it is that I want to be because I'm surrounded. And then, you know, once you get to the top of the mountain, so many people are scrutinizing you and they start dealing with him and messing with him about his gambling. But again, what he was gambling was like $5-10 to you and me because he was getting paid, you know, more money from his endorsements than he was playing ball. And that was just his outlet. But that was also because Jordan was so competitive. Not only was he competitive on the basketball court, but he was competitive off the court from the golf games to shoot pitching quarters against the wall. Did you see him pitching? He was like, I'll pitch a quarter one time. I'll let you pitch it 4 times.
I couldn't figure out the rules of the game. Like, it was because they were pitching the quarters and it was like, I guess you can't hit the wall or something. Like whoever gets closest to the wall.
Yep. I think so.
And like, and he was betting $100 on that or $20 on this and that or whatever. And it's like with a security guy in the back. So,
I mean, that was his thing. That was his outlet. Because again, like you said, he was surrounded by people all the time. So what else was it that he could do? You couldn't follow him to a country club to go play golf because you had to have a membership to get in there.
He'd have to have it all closed off so he can go play half the time probably. And I'm glad you brought that up because I remember feeling that too, watching that last night with him laying on the couch with the cigar. And he's just like, I mean, I can't go anywhere. I'm just going to sit here till it's time to go play basketball. And it's almost like the basketball court became a sanctuary where he could kind of get away for 2 hours. But then they showed it like him. As soon as he gets out of the room and comes around a corner, you start hearing all the yelling and screaming, and there's people just waiting for him to come around the corner. They've been there for hours, just waiting for him to walk around. Then he gets on the bus, and there's people banging on the bus, like for him. I mean, he's just going to go play like the Pacers on a Wednesday or whatever. And then he gets to the arena. They're already at the arena, like just waiting to see this dude. He walks in, he does the game. Then he's got like a billion reporters around him asking questions and stuff. Like I honestly have so much respect for him because he didn't crack. He didn't go nuts like underneath all this pressure. Right. I don't know how he would have been able to do this in today's world. And maybe he wouldn't be as big in today's world because we'd have more access to some of these guys, I guess, through Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. But honestly, I don't think Jordan's the type that would have a Twitter account. I don't think he's the type that would have a Facebook account or anything of that sort. So
yeah, he may not.
I think he would have been, kind of kept to the vest. But we just wanted to touch on The Last Dance and what was going on. It's the only really sports stuff going on right now. It's something to keep us, looking forward to something every Sunday night. And I'm very happy they didn't just throw all this out on ESPN in one swoop, and they're making us kind of wait each week for every 2 parts or whatever. It gives us something to look forward to going into May.
Yeah. Now, Dez, I'll tell you this. We've gone through parts, 5 and 6 now, right?
Right.
So with us going through 5 and 6, with some of the things that I was wanting to know, like some intimate things, like coming up with what happened to his father and all that stuff, are 10 episodes going to be enough to really satisfy us?
No, I've already started thinking that. I was like, man, because I was like, wow, so they just did 5 and 6. We got 7 and 8 coming up next week. And they're at a point in the timeline where they're going to have to talk about Jordan's dad getting killed. Right. I'm wondering how deep they're going to go into it, because the more they talk about the gambling stuff, I'm like, it kind of makes a whole lot of sense that his dad might have got killed, because of something going on with Jordan and gambling. We don't know. They've always said that wasn't the case, but they've always said it was a random killing too. And it's like, for where they found him and all that other stuff, I don't know. It doesn't add up. And I don't know how deep they'll go into that. And Jordan's got his thumb on this documentary, so I doubt they'll go very deep into it at all. But it's going to talk about his retirement the first time. And something I've been looking forward to seeing, that the 94-95 Bulls team without Jordan, that was a 50-game winning team. That was Phil Jackson's best coaching job to me. That year, because the Bulls were still in contention. And Scottie Pippen went from being like Robin to being a Batman of his own. Like that year, I remember 94 Pippen. 94 Pippen was the best player in the league. Like nobody could guard him that one year. And then the previews they're showing right now for those, I still remember it was rumored, but we didn't know for sure if Jordan was coming back yet. And it was a Bulls game. It was like on a Sunday afternoon against somebody. And Pippen's sitting on the bench and the camera's like right in front of him. And he puts his foot up to the camera, and he's wearing Jordan, so it's got like the Jordan symbol, like on the side with him, and he's pointing at the shoe, and he's like pointing at the shoe and doing like this or whatever, and then maybe a week or two later, Jordan's like, "I'm back," and he's back, and it was like, oh snap! So it's on. So I'm looking forward to it. You're right. I don't know how this is gonna. Of course, it's gonna end with him, shooting the shot over Byron Russell or whatever. Game 6 against the Jazz in 98. We know how it ends, but I could literally watch 30 episodes of this and not be bored at all. And I'm hoping,
because I didn't realize what was going on with the organization. I was really shocked with the whole Jerry Krause deal.
I knew.
Blew a team up. I didn't realize that back then. I mean, for whatever reason, back then I had no idea that just Jerry Krause had the short man syndrome and would just basically mess this whole team up.
I was just gonna say to leave it on this note for and I pointed this out to my wife as well from when she first saw Jerry Krause on the screen. Jerry Krause, they'll never admit it. Jerry Krause is the what's the word I'm looking for here? The inspiration for the villain in Space Jam. Go back and watch Space Jam.
Oh, really?
The guy that was like stealing the Monstar stuff or whatever, that he's wearing like a suit or whatever, little short dude.
Yeah.
Go back and look at Space Jam now and look at and like compare him to Jerry Krause. They basically took Jerry Krause and made him the villain of Space Jam.
Wow.
And like I never really thought about it until this starts coming out, and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Old boy from Space Jam looks kind of like Jerry Krause. And they showed him like holding a cigar and doing this other stuff. I'm like, yo, they made and nobody caught it for like 20 plus years or whatever until this came out.
I definitely had no idea. And I hate that Jerry
Krause
passed away, because I'd like to hear what he would have to say. Because the Bulls should have had about 10 championships. These guys had so much more left in the tank, especially when you got a coach like Phil Jackson. who could just relate to every single player on that team, regardless if you were the top-notch superstar Jordan, the next thing in Pippen, or just the all-around garbage man in Dennis Rodman.
Real quick before we get out of here, because you touched on something there. The Rockets won the 2 championships in the year and a half that Jordan was retired. If Jordan had still been there, because he was already hinting at the end of episode 6 that he was mentally exhausted. Like, I think they win another 3 because he took a year and a half off and came back refreshed. If say he didn't do that, do those Bulls beat those Rockets teams? You think? I don't know anymore. I really don't know.
I really think they do. Even if you watch the way Jordan was, the next comparison would have been Olajuwon to Jordan. Who's the best? Jordan gets offended when people are compared to him. I don't know if you noticed that last night, but he got offended. Even like with Clyde Drexler, he was like, well, yeah, Clyde is a threat. But once they started comparing us, and he said, I was really offended. He was like, I'm very
so cold. He was like, I was offended.
Yeah.
Like, and then he was like,
and then it was like, he said, and then Magic Johnson said, Michael told me, look what I'm going to do to this guy tomorrow night. And he came out and busted all those threes like it wasn't nothing.
6 threes and a half.
Yes, sir.
I think it was a record until like Steph Curry or somebody broke it just here recently. And and I'm watching those shots, going back and watching the replays, a lot of stuff. They were so pure looking, like the jumpers, like from 3. Jordan wasn't shooting, but maybe 3 3-pointers a game back then. But if he was in today's game and shooting 7 or 8 and with no hand checking, he was already into the foul line 7-8 times a game back then. He would have been at the foul line like James Harden gets to the foul line like 15 times a game. If James Harden can get to the foul line that many times in a game right now, can you imagine what Jordan would average per game right now in today's rules? He'd be like 48 a game. Easy. It'd be nuts. So I don't know, man. He's the greatest. I can't say anybody else is above what I watched live as a teen and young adult, and what I'm reliving now. And it just reminded me how much of a deal this dude was. And
he was the man.
He's crazy. I'm looking forward to the final 4 episodes. I'm really not wanting it to end. I'm having so much fun watching. Matter of fact, I'm probably about to go watch them right now.
Yeah, I watch them on and off because they're always playing them at different times. So I do watch them on and off, and it's so sweet. And I do want to say this before we get out of here. Jordan, man, this guy's attitude. I know some people may not like it, but I loved his attitude. His attitude was like, you don't want to play hard? Get out. I don't care who you are. No
one's built like that anymore. Like no one is built like that anymore.
Exactly. And that is what is missing from our games, man. Nobody has the attitude of the heck with you. I don't care. We're competitors. That means we're enemies. We're against each other. And that's how he took everything. He didn't care who you were. And I love the trash that he talked to Krause too.
Him and Pippen would talk smack to Krause. Like, you might have talked to your manager like that, like every day. And like your manager's got to deal with it. He's like, well, they're the best 2 I got, so I got to keep on with them. Yeah, Kobe was the last one really built like the old school guys. Because like what happened after the one thing the Olympics did is that it made the NBA players become friends. Like, because really, that's the one thing I'm noticing watching this. Right. Isaiah didn't like Bird. Bird didn't like Isaiah. Magic didn't like Bird. Jordan didn't like any of them. Like Ewing hated all of them, and like none of them were friends. Like until the '92 Dream Team, where they spent a month together in Spain, and they all kind of became friends after that. But even then, coming back, what happens right after that? Jordan snatches a title from Charles Barkley. Jordan snatches a title from Stockton and Malone. Jordan snatched the title from Sean Kemp and Gary Payton.
That was funny. That one was funny. I don't know if you remember or not. They showed it last night when Jordan and Payton were shaking hands at the All-Star.
Oh, at the All-Star game. Yeah.
And Jordan goes, well, hopefully y'all, hopefully we'll see each other at the All-Star game. And Peyton said, hopefully y'all will get there or something. And Jordan goes, I know we going to be there. I'm talking about y'all. Hopefully y'all will get there.
Like, oh, man. Because they had just saw them the year before. They were there in 97 with Sonics and Bulls. So, it's just crazy that, like, none of them, like, today, really after the Redeem team, the 08 Olympic team with Kobe and
Carmelo.
LeBron, D Wade, Carmelo, all those guys, like they're all still friends to this day because of the '08 Dream Team, really. And they actually shifted the landscape in the NBA being on that team. That's how you get the Miami Heat with Bosh and Wade and LeBron.
Right.
That's how you get, these teams teaming up with each other, or Kevin Durant going to go play in Golden State because they're used to playing with each other in international play now, and they're all friends. But if you took today's players and put them, like, parachuted them into the 90s, they wouldn't be friends. Kevin Durant would hate Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry would hate LeBron James. LeBron James was going to Steph Curry's Davidson games. Like when he was at Davidson, I remember he'd pull up and watch him play back then when he was 21 years old. Like these guys are kind of wired different. And Kobe's the last one. He's the last Skywalker. He's the last one that just had that mentality of, like, I'm going to step on your throat. I don't care if we're friends or not. Out here on the court, like, you're going to get it. And, like, if LeBron ever had that, then, yeah, I would put him up there with Jordan and Kobe and those guys. But LeBron doesn't possess that unless he's forced to put it out. And that's a different type of mentality to have. Right. You're going to win some, but you're not going to win all of them or most of them. And
you're not going to win 6.
Yeah, you ain't gonna win 6. You ain't gonna win 5. So I mean, that's the main difference. Some bits that I want to clear up right before we get off here. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, go to the Sports Carolina Monthly YouTube channel. Subscribe today so you can get alerted whenever our new stuff is out. The last rundown that we did was the greatest NFL teams ever, the 1 seeds. That tournament's getting ready to kick off. I didn't get a chance to tell you, but I actually seeded all 64 teams in that bracket. And I'm in the middle of putting that up on the site now so that you guys have some time to study, kind of figure out your game plans. It's a big, huge event, 64 teams, every Super Bowl winner ever, plus some at-large teams that were really good and just fell short. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The 1 seeds were the 85 Bears, the 89 49ers, the 92 Cowboys, and the 78 Steelers. And as I was doing these seeds, man, there's some first round matchups that are pretty unbelievable right off the bat. So the rundown presents the greatest NFL team ever bracket, 64 team bracket. Rod, myself, Brandon Blakeney, Ryan Stone from IMG, Kevin Avery from the 4-Man Rush, Errol Marks from the Worldwide Sports Network. We got a lot of different personalities that are going to be judging these, and we'll start putting those episodes out here to kind of get everybody through the beginning of summer and just kind of getting through this together. So definitely go subscribe, share. And that's really pretty much it, man. You got anything you want to close out with for today?
No, man, not a lot. Like I said, I enjoyed this Last Dance episodes. And as you were telling everybody to tune in, also tune in for the NFL because we're going to have some NFL stuff coming up. NFL is the thing that pretty much goes the longest year round, regardless of the coronavirus going on. There's always some kind of news happening with the NFL. And I'm especially excited to start talking about my Cowboys because we've made some interesting moves there. So I'm interested in talking about how management is viewing some of those moves that they've made. So definitely stay tuned. Look for us. Be safe. If you have to leave home, wear your mask, wear your gloves. Other than that, protect yourself, protect your family, protect others by trying to stay at home.
All right. For Rod Funderburk, I'm Desmond Johnson. That's been today's episode of The Rundown. We'll see you a little bit later on in the week. Base.